Year 10, parents, caregivers and students, welcome to our information presentation PowerPoint for 2020. This PowerPoint will take you on the journey of selecting an appropriate course for Year 11 and 12. We're particularly focusing on students in this PowerPoint wishing to go to university. So our focus is around the ATAR pathway. Over the course of the PowerPoint, you'll have presentations from our Senior School Deputy, Mr. Dave Norcliffe, our VET Program Coordinator, Mrs. Linley Stewart, who oversees our RTO, and for those final nitty-gritty decisions and understanding timetable, you will also hear from the Manager Operations, Mr. Paul Beecham. We look forward to travelling this journey of selection with you. Please sit back and listen to what we're offering you.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonald. I'd like to start by talking about the WACE. Many of you may have heard of WACE and are not sure what it is. So the WACE stands for the West Australian Certificate of Education. It's awarded to students who meet certain criteria that are set by the School Curriculum and Standards Authority, or who we call SCASA. It's something that we used to talk about as graduate. Students graduate now. The terminology is that every student graduates, but not every student achieves WACE. And there are certain requirements that students need to do to achieve WACE. First of all, to achieve WACE, students need to meet the Online Literacy and Numeracy Assessment, known as OLNA. All Year 10 students have had the opportunity to sit the first round in March, and they will have 5 more opportunities before the end of Year 12. There's another round coming up in September of this year. Then there will be March and September of Year 11 and March and September of Year 12. So a total of 6 opportunities for students to pass the 3 different categories of OLNA, which is writing, reading and numeracy. So students must pass all 3 of those to achieve WACE at the end of Year 12. Also, to achieve WACE, students need to complete at least 4 ATAR courses or at least 5 general courses, or a combination of general and ATAR, or complete a Certificate 2 or higher in combination with ATAR general or foundation courses. Now that is what each of our students at Thornley Senior High School do. Every student studies a Certificate 2 or higher unless they are studying Maths Specialist. So students will do a Certificate 2 or higher in combination with their ATAR or their general subjects. Also, to achieve WACE, students need to complete a pair of units from each of List A and List B subjects. List A being arts, languages, social sciences, etc. and List B being mathematics, science and technology type subjects. Now, every student has to study English. So to achieve WACE, every student must study 4 units of English, 2 in Year 11, Semester 1 and Semester 2, and 2 in Year 12, repeated. Now, English is a List A subject. So that is taken care of anyway, because every student is studying English. That covers the List A. So we need to ensure that all students also study a List B subject. Now, we highly recommend that every student studies maths. Students who are very good at maths need to study maths because that will be a good opportunity to achieve at least C grades and maybe higher. And students who are not very good at maths need to study maths to improve their mathematics skills. And also, students who have not passed the numeracy in OLNA will get extra help through their mathematics classes. So each of our students studying English and maths takes care of the List A and List B requirements. Now, also, the final thing, to achieve WACE, all students need to achieve a minimum of 14 C grades across Year 11 and 12 and must achieve at least 6 C grades in Year 12. Every subject that a student studies, they will receive 2 grades for. So students study 6 subjects in Year 11, which gives them 12 grades. They study the same 6 again in Year 12, which gives them another 12 grades. Therefore, across Year 11 and 12, students will receive 24 grades. 14 of those need to be at a C level or higher for a student to achieve WACE. Every student, whether they achieve WACE or not, receives the West Australian Statement of Student Achievement. It's a record of everything that the student has done across Year 11 and 12. All of the courses with their grades are on the WASA, as well as certificate courses, all units of competencies that are achieved through the certificate courses, and also any endorsed programs. So at Thornley Senior High School, we offer a variety of different courses. So this is what students need to be doing, is to select the courses that they would like to study in Year 11 and 12. First of all, we have ATAR courses. These courses are for students who are aiming to go directly to university, and each ATAR course that a student studies, they will need to sit an external exam at the end of Year 12. If a student does not sit that external exam, that course will be removed from the student's record. Students need to study at least 4 ATAR courses if they are requiring an ATAR and going to university. General courses are aimed at students who are looking at going to TAFE or going straight to the workforce or an apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship. There are no exams with general courses. Now, students studying ATAR may choose to study a general course as well as their ATAR courses. Certificate courses, as I mentioned before, all of our students will study a Certificate 2 or higher at Thornley Senior High School, except those who are studying Maths Specialist. The Certificate 2 courses assist students to gain apprenticeships, employments, entry into TAFE, and for ATAR students who are looking at going to university, having a Certificate 2 often helps the students to pick up part-time work. And finally, foundation courses. Foundation courses are designed to assist students who need a little bit of extra support with literacy and numeracy. So students who have been deemed as Category 1 for ulnar in numeracy can study the Foundation Maths course, and Category 1 in reading and or writing can study the Foundation English course. ATAR students need to select one of the following options: 4 ATAR subjects, 1 general course, and 1 certificate course, or 5 ATAR subjects and 1 certificate course, or 6 ATAR subjects for students who are studying Maths Specialist. Students who are doing ATAR and choose the certificate course in childcare or hospitality need to be aware that both of those certificates do require some work experience. Now, our general students do their work experience while the ATAR students are doing their exams. So any ATAR student who chooses childcare or hospitality as their certificate will need to do a work experience at the end of Year 11. So after Year 11 has finished for all students, those particular students will need to do a 2-week work experience to satisfy that component of the certificate. Information we have here is just a bit of a snapshot of where students have been, and over the last decade, between 15 and 25 years old, there was a study. And interestingly, at 25 years of age, 50% of people were not working full-time. And they then looked at a study of why. What were the barriers to students obtaining full-time work? And we have a look at these and we see at Thornley Senior High School, how do we address these particular barriers? So looking at the barriers in the red, so one of the barriers identified was not enough work experience. Each of our general students do workplace learning for a 2-week block in semester 1 and again a 2-week block in semester 2 in both year 11 and year 12. So that is a great way that Thornley Senior High School is addressing that particular issue. Students are receiving 220 hours or more of work experience by the end of year 12. Lack of appropriate education. Thornley Senior High School offers a comprehensive year 11 and 12 program, so students can get the appropriate education depending on the vocation they are looking to at the end of year 12. Students looking to go to university, we do have a variety of ATAR courses on offer to assist students in that endeavour. Lack of career management skills. Career and enterprise is one of the subjects that is offered in year 11 and 12, and even for ATAR students who may choose 4 ATAR and 1 general, that is a great subject for students to do because it does have a look at career management, and students do gain those skills. And the final one, not enough jobs. Well, unfortunately at Thornley Senior High School, that's a little bit beyond our control. This is a graph showing growth industries. So students looking at choosing subjects for year 11 and 12, one thing we like them to do is have a look at what is the career that the students are looking at going into, so we can choose the appropriate subjects to help them get there. This looks at the growth industry. So as you can see from the graph, the healthcare and social assistance area is the big growth area at the moment, and with a figure of 27.9%. Then construction, education and training, and professional, scientific and technical services are pretty close to each other in the industries that are looking at the most growth at the moment. Choosing a career can be very hard. Specifically looking at jobs, a particular job can be difficult for students to choose. So another way they can have a look at is different, what we call job clusters. So every job can be placed into a particular cluster. So although not maybe choosing a specific career or specific job, students may have a look at a particular cluster that they might be interested in. And that will also assist with students choosing subjects for year 11 and 12 if they have an idea of what sort of cluster of jobs they would be interested in. So the generators, the artisans, designers, informers, coordinators, the technologists, and the carers. Now this particular document, and these 2 documents you should have in your package that you received, this has a look at those particular clusters. It shows examples of the types of jobs within those clusters, but what it also does is look at those clusters that have the strongest future prospects, particular job growth, so the number of jobs that have, whether they've increased or decreased in the number of jobs within that cluster, and also having a look at a particular cluster, how much it is affected by automation. So people in these particular jobs, are they eventually going to be replaced by robots? If you have a look down at the variety of clusters there, if we go to the carers, that has seen a job growth of 18%, and it has a low 26% effect by automation. So the carers, the jobs within the carers cluster are less likely to be replaced through automation. So that has a strong future prospect. And the examples of jobs that come into the carers, general practitioners, nurses, tour guides, massage therapists, social workers, and you can see the list on the right hand side there. So that is a strong future prospect for that cluster. Others that have a strong future prospect, the informers with 7.6% growth and 36% of affected by automation, and also the technologists. Job clusters that are weak, the artisans, and that is mainly through the 77% affected by automation, and the coordinators, 71% affected by automation. So it's a good idea to have a look at this particular document when choosing a possible career. Now, to assist students to choose what sort of career they would like, you can see this particular website here, and it's a good idea for Year 10 students to visit the Deakin website, take the quiz, which will help students determine which sort of cluster that they would be suited to. Job trends. Over 90% of new jobs over the next 5 years will need education beyond school, and some jobs need more training than they used to. Many professional and service roles demand university or VET qualifications. So looking forward beyond Year 12, there's a likelihood that students will need to do some extra form of training, whether that be through TAFE or through university or through pre-apprenticeships. And this particular document looks at the destinations of our students from Year 12 last year in 2019, where they have ended up in 2020. So as you can see from that, majority of our students, 38.8%, have gone to university. 16.4% have part-time employment, 12% have gone to TAFE, and interestingly, only 6% have gained full-time employment. So just a bit of a snapshot, a bit of an idea of where our students have generally ended up. Okay, now I'd like to pass over to Mrs. Stewart to talk a little bit about VET, Vocational Education and Training. So if you click on the next slide, she will give you the information in regards to that.
Thanks, Mr. Norcliffe. And now I'd like to speak to you about Vocational Education and Training, commonly known as VET. Every student at Thornley is going to be studying a VET course, which is a certificate under the AQF. The reason we do this is to ensure a broader education to provide an easier transition from ATAR to general if required in the future. Every student will leave school with a certificate too, as well as an ATAR. The certificates can assist students to gain an apprenticeship. It increases their employment opportunities and often can provide part-time jobs while at university. For example, the hospitality students will achieve a competency in making coffee, and that is quite often a good job to have while you're at university. The cost of the certificates at school too is also a fraction of the cost of a certificate at TAFE. There are links to industry that we can provide through our certificate courses and our workplace training, and TAFE is an alternative entry into university. The certificates we're offering at Thornley Senior High School, we're offering Certificate 2s in business, in childcare, in media, in dance, in engineering pathways, in hospitality, in sport and recreation, and in visual arts. One being a focus on wood and the other one being an arts focus. There's also a Certificate 2 in informational digital media and technology. The work experience is required for hospitality and childcare. Students are able to achieve units for WACE. So a Certificate 2 will give a student 4 units for WACE and a Certificate 3, 6. So 2 units in Year 11 and 4 in Year 12. ATAR students who select childcare or hospitality will have to do work experience at the completion of their exams in Term 4, Year 11, and that will cover the requirement for work placement in their certificate.
Okay, so now it is time to have a look at choosing your subjects for Year 11 and 12. Now, the first decision you need to make is whether you study an ATAR pathway or a general pathway. So the first thing to look at is what is your post-school destination. If you are looking at going to university, then it is recommended you study an ATAR pathway. You can still get to university through a general pathway. It just means you do a bridging course or you go to TAFE, do a Cert 4, and that will get you to university as well. If you are looking at going to TAFE at the end of Year 12, then you're recommended to study a general pathway. If you're looking at employment, then also a general pathway. Second thing to look at are your school grades. Now, if you are achieving A's and B's in your subjects in Year 10, then you can be looking at an ATAR pathway, but you could also study general. If you are achieving C's and D's, then maybe you need to look at a general pathway. Third thing is teacher recommendations. On your subject selection form, you are required to get a teacher recommendation for every subject that you choose. Now, if a teacher does not recommend you for the subject, then you would need to choose an alternative subject. For example, if you are looking at doing ATAR, you need to study ATAR English. However, if your teacher, your English teacher, does not recommend that you study ATAR English, then maybe you need to be looking at a general pathway. And honour results. If you have achieved Category 3 for your honour, then ATAR pathway or a general pathway. If you are all Category 2s, then maybe it needs to be a general pathway that you study in Year 11 and 12. For Category 1 students, we recommend you do study a general pathway and you look at studying Foundation Maths and or Foundation English. Students who are looking at going to university, you need to have a look at this document, and there is a slip in your pack that gives you the link to this document. Now, in this, all university courses are listed and any prerequisites that you need to have studied in Year 11 and 12 to be able to study that course at university. For example, if you are looking at studying medicine, you need to do chemistry in Year 11 and 12. So have a look at your intended university course and see if there's any subject that you do need to choose in Year 11 and 12. Secondly, your school grades. Which subjects are you good at? Because remember, the higher your scores in your subjects, the higher your ATAR will be. Therefore, choose subjects that will get you the highest marks. Thirdly, what are you interested in? Are you interested in chemistry? Are you interested in psychology? Now, often, the second point, school grades, and the third point, your interests, are often aligned. Fourthly, course counselling interview. You will be having an interview with a course counsellor in week 9 or 10 of this term, and they will assist you in choosing your specific subjects you would like to study in Year 11 and 12. Now, big tip, please do not choose a subject based on scaling, because scaling is designed to even up marks. It doesn't get you extra marks. ATAR bonuses. So if you study Math Specialist, Math Methods and or Japanese, you will receive an extra bonus of 10% of the scaled score for that subject. For example, if in Math Specialist a student scores 55, 10% of 55 is 5.5, therefore 5.5 is added to the TEA, which is the sum of the 4 highest scaled scores. However, please do not choose a subject just because it gets a 10% bonus, because remember, 10% of not much is still not much. Another thing to look at is university admission requirements. So students who are looking at going to university must achieve their WACE. What we talked about at the start of this presentation, all students must make sure they satisfy all the criteria to achieve WACE. It is mandatory to achieve university admission. Competence in English. So students need to have a scaled score of at least 50 in English, ATAR, or EALD ATAR to get direct entry to university. Your ATAR, which is your Australian Tertiary Admission Rank, so that is how the universities choose students to go into their courses. So that is your ATAR is the total of your 4 highest scoring subjects at the end of Year 12 after students have sat the external exams. They then add 10% bonuses for any subjects that are studied by the students. And finally, the prerequisites. Make sure once again that you are checking out those prerequisites for any university course. The course selection process. So this is what happens now in students selecting their subjects for Year 11 and 12. Now, the first step you are achieving because you are reading this PowerPoint. Secondly, you need to do some personal research. So there is a career exploration workbook that was posted on Connect recently. That is a great document for students to complete that will assist in students choosing a career and therefore subjects for Year 11 and 12. Point 3, there will be a Year 10 subject information day, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Teacher recommendations, as we discussed, and the course counselling interviews, which are coming up in week 9 and week 10. Here is an example of a couple of websites that students are encouraged to have a look at. Again, looking at assisting students to choose their future career. So the My Future website with a link there, and the Job Outlook, also a great website for students to have a look at and get some information about possible future careers. Now, in your package, you should have this pathway guide for Year 11 and in 2021. That contains vital information about the subjects and some recommendations for students on what particular subjects they may need to choose. So please have a look at that, and that will also assist students in choosing their subjects. And university open days. So highly recommended if you are looking at going to university. Now, at the moment, some of these are online, yet to hear about some of the others. So at the moment, we have not heard from Curtin University as to when theirs will be, and Edith Cowan is going to be an online one, and you can see the dates there for the other university open days as well.
Thank you, Mr. Norcliffe. This next section relates to the Year 10 Subject Information Day and also completion of the subject selection booklet prior to the counselling sessions. On Tuesday, the 16th of June, all Year 10 students will have the opportunity to sit in on presentations from all learning areas. They will attend 10 half-hour sessions from MESH subjects as well as technologies, health and phys ed, arts and the vet staff. The students will have a workbook with them on the day they can use to write down information and prepare questions to ask parents and staff. Students will be provided with a timetable over the next fortnight. The course counselling interviews will take place in weeks 9 and 10 of this term. All Year 10 students and their parents and guardians will be allocated a time and a day to meet with one of the subject counsellors at school. These sessions are important as this is where conversations can be had around subject offerings and selections for 2021 and also look at student suitability for their choices. This is an important part of the process as it allows all parties to reach consensus on the best possible outcomes for the students. This sheet is the course subject selection sheet, and this is where students and parents detail their intended pathway and subject requirements of this pathway. This sheet needs to be brought to the counselling interviews but should not be completed until after the Career Advisory Day on the 16th of June. This will allow students and their parents time to look at subject availability and suitability before the subject counselling sessions. The Year 11 grid for 2021 contains 6 band lines with both general and ATAR courses. Students must choose 6 subjects and 6 second preference or reserve subjects on the Year 11 grid for 2021. One of the subjects chosen must be English and one must be a certificate course. It is also highly recommended that all students do a mathematics course as well, as this increases flexibility of post-compulsory pathways. As you can see from this slide, the student has chosen 5 ATAR courses from the right-hand side of the grid, as well as a Certificate 2 course in engineering. The important part here is that one subject has been chosen from each horizontal or band line. all subjects on a band line run at the same time, so a student can only choose one here as well as a second preference or reserve. For example, if you look on band line 6, a student cannot choose politics and law, computer science and Japanese as they all run at the same time. Students must put first preference to the right hand side as well as a reserve or second preference in case the first preference does not run due to numbers or in case their first preference is full. Once subjects have been chosen, they need to be transferred to this sheet. Students need to pay particular attention here to the prerequisites and the teacher recommendations. Students need to look at the subject selection booklet as well as listening at the career advisory day to ascertain if they have met the course prerequisites. They must also get appropriate staff to sign off the teacher recommendations to confirm that the staff deem the student capable of achieving in this subject. This must be done before the counselling process. Students can bring this to the course counselling day during their interviews, and this will help guide subject selections with the counsellor. This is the final section of the course selection package, and this must be completed and signed by both students and parents. Students and parents are to complete this section, obviously sign at the bottom of their relevant sections. If parents cannot be present at the interview, then it's important that this section by the parent is seen, ticked and signed prior to the student coming in for the interview. The school cannot process the subject application unless all forms are signed. This slide relates to the costings of the Year 11 subjects for 2021. Once subjects are selected and endorsed by the school, fees are entered onto the billing. At the time of the interview, the parents and or guardians must pay a deposit to reserve their spot in their subject choices. Once classes are full, students will be placed according to suitability, prerequisites, and also if a deposit has been paid. Families who pay a deposit will have priority to subject selection. This completes the subject selection process. If you do have any further questions, feel free to call the school and make an appointment to discuss this. Thank you.